After my sister's son wrecked my $2,000 PC setup, she blamed me. Now her husband's taking my side and she's spiraling into lies and isolation. Original post at Hello Reddit. I'm a 25-year-old female, and honestly, I'm at my wit's end over this situation. I really need an outside opinion because my whole family is acting like I'm a monster for standing my ground. I'm a student who develops software, and I'm also an avid personal computer gamer during my downtime. I live by myself in a one-bedroom apartment that I've worked hard over the years to make comfortable and efficient. I spent a long time saving up to build my dream personal computer setup: 3 monitors, a customized mechanical keyboard, an ergonomic chair, the full package. Altogether, the entire setup is worth just over $2,000, and I treat it like it's my own child. Last weekend, my older sister, who is 30 years old, asked if she could stay at my place for one night because her apartment was undergoing fumigation and her husband wasn't in town. She has a 3-year-old son, Max, who is, let's just say, very energetic. I love him, but he's like a tiny whirlwind. I was hesitant, but she promised me she'd watch him closely and that it would only be for one night. They arrived on Saturday afternoon, and it became immediately obvious that she wasn't exaggerating about Max being a handful. Within the first 10 minutes, he had pulled 4 books off my shelves, thrown my houseplants onto the floor, and spilled juice on my area rug. I tried to stay calm. He's a toddler, I understand. But I did ask my sister nicely to make sure he stayed out of my office where my personal computer setup is located. She rolled her eyes and said, "He's just exploring. He's curious. That's normal." But she did go ahead and close the office door. Then comes Sunday morning. I woke up screaming. Apparently, Max had woken up before his mother, managed to open the office door, and decided that my setup was his personal jungle gym. He pulled down one of my monitors, cracking the screen. He stuffed crackers into the ventilation slots of the computer tower, this is real, tore the keycaps off my keyboard, and drew all over my chair with permanent marker. And the final blow? He poured apple juice directly into the computer tower. When I say I went silent, I mean I said nothing, completely mute. My sister walked in, saw the destruction, and said, "Oh no," in this flat tone like someone spilled a drink on a counter. I started panicking, and she had the nerve to say, "Well, if it was that important, you should have baby-proofed the room." I completely lost it. I told her, 1. She knew he wasn't allowed in there. 2. This is my home, not a daycare center. 3. People living alone as adults are not expected to baby-proof a $2,000 gaming setup. She told me to calm down and insisted, "He's just a kid and things can be replaced." I said, "Great. Then you can replace it." She told me she couldn't afford it right now, but maybe in a few months she could give me a few $100s. I told her that wasn't enough and that she needed to take full accountability. She stormed out, and now my entire family is flooding my phone. My mother says I'm being too materialistic and should understand that my nephew didn't do it on purpose. My father says I should have locked the office door if it meant that much to me. My brother even chimed in with, "Why do you need 3 monitors anyway? That's excessive." I filed an insurance claim, but there's no certainty it will be covered since it might be considered damage caused by a guest. I also told my sister that if she doesn't pay for the damage, I will take her to court. Now I'm getting messages from her demanding that I apologize for blaming her child for being naturally curious. I told her I'd be willing to drop the issue if she paid for the repairs and replacements, or at least met me halfway. But instead, she blocked me. So, am I taking it too far if I pursue legal action against my sister for this? Wow. Just wow. I woke up from a nap 4 hours later to all these replies. Thank you all. It's going to take me a bit to get through everything. My sister still hasn't unblocked me, but her husband did reach out to ask what happened. I'm sorry there's not more of an update yet, but I'll post again when I know more. I really appreciate all the perspectives here. My mind feels a lot clearer now. Here is the updated post with all acronyms spelled out, grammatical structure adjusted, and the tone and content fully preserved as you requested. Update 2. Hey everyone. As I mentioned earlier, my sister's husband got in touch, and we're currently trying to work something out if possible. He's been surprisingly understanding, just like all of you have been here. Also, I wanted to clear up the situation with the office space. My one-bedroom apartment is pretty small, around 33 square meters or 355 square feet, if I did the conversion right. The landlord had converted an old unused clothes closet into what's now a makeshift office. Yeah, it's unusual, but the building was built in the 1940s, so they probably had to get creative with the layout at some point. So basically, the space is a living room where my sister and her son slept, a kitchen where I slept, and the converted office. Thanks again for all the support, and for the award. I honestly don't have words for how kind people have been, both in the direct messages and the comments. Some of the original poster's comments. In response to a top comment, original poster. I really appreciate your words. You managed to express exactly what I've been feeling but struggled to say myself. It's honestly such a relief to know I'm not completely off base here. Now I just need to figure out what I'm willing to do going forward. I don't want to alienate my family, but I also can't keep begging them to listen or take me seriously. Thank you. Regarding going no contact. I'm not at the point of going completely no contact just yet, but I really appreciate your take on it. It's definitely something I'm keeping in the back of my mind, especially if things keep escalating and nobody in my family starts showing me even a shred of respect or consideration. All I've ever wanted in this is accountability, not drama. But if they keep pushing me, I won't hesitate to take a step back. Honestly, if my own family can't recognize how much effort I've put into my hobbies, maybe I don't need them around at all. Thanks for your insight. Response to a downvoted commenter's questions. Commenter: Does the office door have a lock? If so, why didn't you lock it? How did a 3-year-old manage to get crackers and apple juice in an apartment he's not familiar with? And if you knew they were coming, why didn't you take more precautions with your stuff? Original poster 1. The office is actually just a converted clothes closet. Like I said, the apartment's from the 1940s and has a weird floor plan. There's no lock on the door, just a heavy old wooden one. I've been wondering if my sister might have opened it for him. I really don't understand why she would, but it's been on my mind. 2. The crackers and juice weren't mine. My sister brought them. I had no idea he had access to them during the night until it was too late. 3. I didn't get much notice at all. She messaged me around 10 in the morning on Saturday, and they arrived by 2 that afternoon. My apartment was a mess, so I spent most of that time cleaning before they got there. Looking back, yeah, I should have taken more precautions with my setup. But it genuinely didn't occur to me that something like this could happen. I believed the office area was inaccessible to her son. What he managed to get into in the living room had already been moved out of reach and into a space where he could be watched more easily. Update 3. Hey again, I just wanted to share a quick update since it's been nearly a week and a few people asked what ended up happening. Things are better. Kind of weird. Still ongoing. But here's the latest. Last Saturday, my brother-in-law, my sister's husband, came over to see the damage for himself. He actually brought Max, their toddler, with him, which I was initially furious about, but he had a reason. He asked Max to try opening the door to the office/closet. The kid couldn't even budge it. The door was way too heavy for him. You probably know where this is heading. My brother-in-law offered to take my personal computer to the same store that originally built it, just to see what could be salvaged. I agreed, but asked if we could put something in writing first, just for peace of mind. We drafted a simple agreement saying he'd take responsibility for it while it was in his care. Sure, it's mostly symbolic and wouldn't hold much legal weight, but it helped me feel like I had a little more control over the situation. On Monday, he dropped it off at the shop and gave them my phone number so they could update me directly. He also told me that he confronted my sister about how everything unfolded. I sent him the original Reddit post and he actually read the comments, then showed them to her. She still hasn't unblocked me. From what I've heard, she was not happy that her husband was siding with me. I also shared the post and several of your comments with my parents and my brother. None of them really believed me before this, so I figured it was time. My parents still don't totally get it, but at least they've stopped fighting me on it. My brother has been a bit more understanding, although weirdly he seemed mostly fascinated by how many people read the post. Honestly, I don't think any of them truly care, and if they end up seeing this, I'm okay with that. Do better. So I went to check on the personal computer today. It's Wednesday where I am. The repair shop said that thankfully most of it is salvageable. It needs a very delicate internal cleaning, a few fans replaced and some wiring redone, but the main components somehow made it through. My brother-in-law, my sister's husband, didn't hesitate when he said he'd cover the repair costs. When I mentioned that my sister had claimed she couldn't afford even $200, he told me she was lying. He also said he isn't convinced that Max did all of the damage himself. In fact, he suspects the office door might have been intentionally left open, or that my sister may have even been involved in some of the damage herself. The height of the tower and the location where the crackers ended up just didn't match what a toddler would be able to do on his own. Apparently, my sister has also been telling him that I have a gambling addiction. To be fair, I did get a little too into Genshin Impact about 4 years ago, I guess. According to her, maybe this whole thing will wake me up, which is new. She used to be supportive, or at least indifferent. I have no idea where this sudden shift came from. So here's where things currently stand. My personal computer is in the process of being cleaned and repaired. My brother-in-law is covering the cost. My sister still has me blocked and refuses to speak with me. I'm still tempted to escalate things with her, especially if it turns out she did any of this intentionally. I haven't ruled out filing a claim in small claims court depending on how everything plays out. Thank you again to everyone who commented on my original post. Knowing that so many people understood where I was coming from really helped me stand firm when my entire family was trying to gaslight me into thinking I was overreacting. Lately, I've been going back and forth in my mind about whether my sister might have deliberately done something to my setup. I don't want to believe that. It sounds far-fetched. But honestly, the more I think about it, the less far-fetched it seems. I keep thinking back to her reaction when I asked her to keep Max out of the office. The eye roll. The "he's just curious" remarks. Like she wasn't taking any of it seriously. And now I hear from my brother-in-law that she's telling people I have a crippling addiction to games or gambling and need to grow up. It's just unsettling. She used to be okay with it, never a gamer herself, but she respected that it mattered to me. If something changed in her perspective, I honestly have no idea what triggered it, or when. And if she did this as some weird way to make a point or teach me a lesson, that's seriously messed up. She's not our mother. How about starting with an actual conversation instead? I'm not trying to throw accusations around, but I can't lie. It's in my head now. And if she really did let Max take the blame for something she did, that's a level of awful I can't even wrap my head around. So, if you are my sister and you're reading this, which I suspect you are, because I'm sure you're enjoying the comments that take your side, here's what I have to say. I have no idea why you blocked me. I don't know what flipped in your brain about all this. But if you did have anything to do with damaging my setup, whether it was intentional or just negligent, then seriously, screw you. You know how hard I worked for that setup. You know what it meant to me. And you know I would never do something like this to your belongings. And if it really was Max who did all of it, completely on his own, I hope you're actually paying attention to him now. Not for my sake, but for his. Go read the comments on my original post again. Read what other parents and people with younger siblings had to say. They clearly know more about basic boundaries than you do. That's all. Thanks to everyone who's stuck with this mess and read through the updates. Additional comments from the original poster. Commenter. Wait, I thought your whole family was blowing up your phone saying you were being mean. Original poster. Yes, that was a week ago before I even made my first post. Do you need me to clarify anything? My sister had been talking a lot of crap about me, saying I screamed at her child over a minor accident. I've seen people laughing about the phrase blowing up my phone, and I honestly don't get what's wrong with saying it. Commenter. I think ChatGPT has been used a lot in Reddit lately, especially in "Am I the asshole" type subreddits. One common sign of a fake post is that AI always says, "blowing up my phone," so maybe that's why people are skeptical. Original poster. Oh, got it. Thanks for explaining. Beep, boop. Commenter. I'm really glad things are improving. But what about the other damage? The gaming chair, the keyboard, etc.? Here is the full updated text with all acronyms written out, grammar structures adjusted for clarity and flow, but with the writing style and content kept intact, as you requested. Original poster. So, about the chair, it's technically still usable. The cushion, legs, and backrest are stained with red permanent markers, but I've learned to live with it. Some of my co-workers and I work part-time as a janitor, have been trying out cleaning solutions. An ethanol-based mixture, applied in small amounts, I don't want to ruin the fabric further, has been slowly helping clean the plastic and metal parts. So, being in the janitorial field does have some advantages. The keyboard? Meh. I wasn't able to find all of the keycaps that were yanked off. I ended up replacing the missing ones using parts from an old mechanical keyboard, so now it looks a little mismatched. But it still works. If I come across a custom keycap set that fits, I might upgrade it later. As for the cracked monitor, that thing is toast. I probably called it cracked out of denial, honestly. One of the displays is completely unusable. Thankfully, the other two monitors survived, and it wasn't the most expensive one that broke. But still. :commenter. Why aren't you just having your brother-in-law pay for a new keyboard and monitor too? Or hiring someone to professionally clean the chair? That all counts as part of the damage, right? Original poster. We're holding off for now to see if my sister confesses. If she does, then she'll be the one paying out of pocket, or reimbursing him. Right now, the personal computer is the essential piece, and it's been repaired. The keyboard works, even if it's a bit awkward, and I still have 2 functional monitors. That's why I'm okay with waiting on the rest of the damage. About the addiction. Okay, I'll admit. During the COVID-19 lockdown, I did drop $300 on the Genshin Impact character Ganyu when she launched. But that was honestly the worst of it, and she was worth every cent. These days, I barely play anymore. Right now, I'm mostly just messing around in Marvel Rivals. From Genshin's release to today, my total spending on that game has been under $600. Yeah, I get it, that might sound ridiculous to someone who doesn't play video games, but seriously. A gambling addiction? Come on. If she wants to worry about my finances, maybe she should look at what I've spent on Pokemon card packs in this economy. Update 4. My sister is spiraling, but I don't know how or if I should help. A few weeks ago I shared a post, not on this subreddit, about how my sister's 3-year-old son nearly destroyed my personal computer setup. Quick recap. She and her son were staying with me for one night, and he managed to get into my office and wreck my system. Juice poured into the computer tower, crackers shoved into vents, the works. When I asked her for help with the damages, she blamed me instead. It turned into a whole family mess. My sister blocked me and acted like I had overreacted, but her husband, my brother-in-law, reached out on his own. He checked out the damage himself, took the personal computer in for repairs, and covered the costs, because he was genuinely mortified by how she behaved. He also began to question whether their toddler could have even caused all that destruction, especially since the kid couldn't open the door on his own. My brother-in-law suspected she either left the door open or might have done something herself. Then, just a week later, he confronted her about all of this. And she kicked him out. I mean, literally kicked him out. Packed his things, tossed them outside, and told him to get out like he was trash on the curb. He told me she screamed that he was betraying her and taking the side of that fucking Reddit bitch. That's me. She also accused him of conspiring with me, cheating on her, and trying to humiliate her publicly. Which, what? Since then, she hasn't allowed him any contact with their son. No visits, no calls, nothing. She's gone completely silent, threatening to call the police if he tries to reach out. She's blocked me, our brother, and even extended family. She's only speaking to our parents, who are still enabling her. But honestly, I think it's only so they can have access to Max. Meanwhile, I've heard that she's been telling people I'm unstable and made the whole thing up. She even told one of our cousins that I somehow lured her kid into my office as a trap. I don't know if this is related to postpartum depression, some mental break, or if this has always been a side of her I didn't want to believe existed. But I'm scared. I'm scared for Max. I'm scared for her husband. And yeah, I'm scared for myself. Because if she's willing to tear apart her marriage, cut off her siblings, and slander me to protect a lie, what else would she do? My parents want to keep things quiet, but my brother-in-law is determined to get her help. I want that too, but I don't know how or where to start. Has anyone here been through something similar? Is there any way I can gently push her toward getting professional help? I know she's an adult and has her own agency, but I'm seriously worried for her well-being, and especially for Max's. My brother-in-law is planning to file for divorce and has already told my parents that he will fight for custody of his son, with or without their support. His side of the family is furious at mine, and I feel stuck in the middle. Yeah. I guess I did start all of this, didn't I? Is any of this salvageable, and if so, how? Who can I contact within the United States? What are my options? If anyone out there knows, please help. Update 5. Hi everyone. It's been a while, so I didn't want to repost this on Am I Overreacting, but for those who have been following or are still curious, here's where things stand now. The good news. My personal computer is fully functional again. The shop was able to restore it. Completely. My nephew is now living in a safe, stable environment with my brother-in-law. The not-so-good news. My brother-in-law is officially in the process of separating from my sister. I've essentially been disowned by my mother, and now my father too. The only person in my immediate family who still talks to me is my brother. Thank you to everyone who supported me during all of this. It means more than I can say. Original poster's comments. Commenter. Glad to hear your personal computer is fixed, but I'm sorry to hear about your parents. Why would they cut you off? Weren't they only talking to your sister so they could stay close to their grandchild? Original poster. Thank you. I'm also happy the personal computer is back to normal. As for my parents, they've unfortunately been swayed by my sister's lies. She's now convinced that my brother-in-law and I were having an affair and trying to steal her son. I'm still struggling to process all of this, not very well if I'm honest, but at least work and school are keeping me busy and trying to clear things up where I can. There's a lot going on, as you probably guessed, but I'll post another update once things settle a bit. For now, I'm just getting through one day at a time. Commenter. I'm relieved to hear your nephew is safe. Try to keep a relationship with him. It'll mean so much when he's older. I'm also a younger sister and took on too much responsibility trying to hold my family together at your age. Maybe find a therapist? You deserve to protect your mental health too. Original poster. Thank you for your kind words and insight. Therapy honestly hadn't even crossed my mind. But I think you're right. I'll start looking into it. My parents forged my signature and erased me from my grandma's will. They thought I wouldn't notice because I was always the quiet one. They took my name off the house my grandmother left me. They forged my signature, sold the lie to my sister and assumed I'd never notice, because I never caused trouble. But this time, I didn't stay quiet. This time, I became the storm they never saw coming. My name's Emily, and I'm 29 years old. If you met my family, you probably wouldn't notice me at first. And if you asked them to describe me, they'd say something like, she's quiet, keeps to herself. Or worse, she doesn't need much. Sounds harmless, right? Like I'm the easy one, the low-maintenance daughter, the one who doesn't cause problems. But let me ask you something. What happens to the kid who never causes problems? She disappears. That's how it's always been. My younger sister Ashley is the golden one. She lights up a room. Everyone says that. She cries and the world rearranges itself to soothe her. She changes her hair and it becomes a family event. When I graduated college while juggling 3 jobs, no one even looked up from their phones. I used to think it was my fault. Maybe I wasn't pretty enough. Maybe I wasn't expressive enough. Maybe I just didn't shine the right way. I don't remember when I stopped trying to be seen. But I remember exactly when I started paying attention. I started noticing patterns. How Ashley could make one mistake and be comforted, while I could achieve something huge and be met with silence. How her birthdays turned into photo shoots while mine got forgotten, twice. And still, I stayed quiet, reliable, present. Until one day, I found out something that turned my stomach cold. They were selling the house. My grandmother's house. The one she left behind for both of us in her will. Except when I checked the documents, my name wasn't on them, not anymore. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I got up, shut my laptop, and knew, this time, I wouldn't let it slide. If they wanted to treat me like a shadow, I was going to show them what happens when the shadow steps into the spotlight. I wasn't always invisible, at least I don't think I was. I mean, I have vague memories, flickers of my mom brushing my hair before school, or my dad clapping when I spelled dinosaur right at the 2nd grade spelling bee. But they're faint, blurry. Like remembering a dream after it's already started slipping away. By the time Ashley was born, I was 6. Old enough to understand when everything shifted. It started small. She'd cry in the middle of the night and suddenly, my bed was moved into the hallway so they could make her nursery quieter. She got a fever and the entire house shut down. I got the flu? I was handed a ginger ale and told to, tough it out, champ. I adapted. Like kids do. I stopped asking for things. I stopped trying to be a problem. I became helpful. Quiet. Predictable. They loved that. She's so independent, my dad would say proudly, patting my shoulder like I was a little employee. You're our easy one, my mom told me once. Thank God for you. At the time I smiled. I thought that meant I was special. But being the easy one doesn't make you special. It just makes you easier to forget. Ashley was everything I wasn't. Messy, loud, magnetic. She'd throw tantrums and get ice cream afterward. She broke a neighbor's window and got defended for being creative. I once lost a library book and spent 3 weeks grounded. I kept my head down. Got good grades. Didn't make noise. And they rewarded me for it. By pretending I didn't exist. When I got into NYU, I told them in the kitchen during dinner. Ashley had just gotten her learner's permit. She held it up for everyone to see, and suddenly the whole evening was about how proud they were of her. No one asked me what I'd study. No one mentioned it again. I didn't cry. Instead, I got a second job to save for the deposit. When I moved out, no one helped me pack. Ashley had cheer tryouts. My mom was busy with hair appointments. My dad texted, "Good luck, kiddo." And that was that. College was the first time I felt air in my lungs. The first time I spoke and someone actually listened. Professors saw me. Friends invited me places. Roommates asked about my life. It was dizzying, honestly, to feel seen. I called home every Sunday out of habit. They'd ask, "How's school?" And I'd start to answer. But then Ashley got accepted into a sorority, or had a new boyfriend, or dyed her hair purple, and suddenly, my updates became background noise. By junior year, I stopped calling. When I graduated summa cum laude, I mailed the announcement card. Just one envelope, no response. Ashley was going on a graduation trip to Cabo. It was all over Facebook. So I stopped expecting things. I learned to fill the gaps myself. Holidays? I worked doubles? Birthdays? I bought myself a cupcake and lit the candle. When I got promoted at work, I celebrated with my cat. But here's the thing no one tells you about being the strong one. Eventually they stop checking if you're okay. Because they assume you always will be. Ashley could fail a class and it was a family crisis. I could get promoted twice in 1 year and hear nothing but silence. The only person who ever noticed me was my grandmother. She was quiet too, in the same way I was. Gentle, observant, sharp behind the eyes. She was the only person who remembered my birthday without Facebook. The only person who asked questions and waited for the answers. When I told her about my promotion, she cried. She said, "They don't see you, but I do." She was the first person who ever said that out loud. She passed away 2 years later. At the wake, everyone was there, all dressed in muted grays, crying in public like it was a performance. My dad gave a eulogy that sounded like it came from a Hallmark card. Ashley sobbed loudly. Her makeup ran. People handed her tissues like she was the leading actress in some grief production. I just sat in the third pew, hands folded. Tears silent. She had left us something. Her house. The place we all grew up in. The one with the green shutters and creaky porch swing. She said it would go to both of us. Me and Ashley. Equally. That was in the will. I saw it. But last month I overheard something that made my stomach flip. Ashley was showing a friend photos of a renovation. New backsplash, hardwood floors, a walk-in closet. "It's going to be mine," she said casually. "We're listing Emily as having declined the inheritance. Made everything easier." I laughed. I thought it was a joke. Then I checked the county records. My name was gone. I hadn't declined anything. I hadn't even been informed. That was the moment. The fracture. The match hitting dry kindling. I wasn't the invisible daughter anymore. I was the forgotten one. Erased. Silenced. And I was done playing that role. I didn't confront anyone. Not right away. That's the thing about people who've been overlooked their whole lives. We learn how to wait. We watch. We collect receipts while everyone else forgets we're even in the room. So I waited. I smiled through family group chats where Ashley posted house inspo like she was Joanna Gaines. I nodded along to my mom's passive little comments like, "Well, you always said you didn't want a big house, right?" Or, Losing the house probably takes a weight off your shoulders. I hadn't said either of those things. What I had said, months ago, was that I was too swamped at work to think about moving right now. That was it. That one sentence had apparently become their legal justification for pretending I didn't exist. Fine, if they wanted to play the game that way, I could too. Except I wouldn't play it loud. I'd play it smart. I started with the will. My grandmother's attorney was retired, but still lucid, still sharp. He remembered me. I drove out to the edge of town and sat in his dusty little office while he dug through a file cabinet older than the internet. When he found the copy, he frowned. She was very clear, he said. 50-50 split between you and your sister. Can I get a certified copy? I asked. He nodded. You'll want that. The next stop was the county clerk's office. I requested the title history on the property, acting casual, like I was just curious. The woman behind the desk printed it out for me with a tight smile. And there it was. My name had been removed. The date? 2 months after Grandma died. Signed. Witnessed. Processed. But the signature wasn't mine. It was my name. But it wasn't my handwriting. Not even close. My hands were cold as I stared at the page. They didn't just forget to include me. They forged my consent. I walked out of the clerk's office shaking. Not with fear. With adrenaline. The kind of slow, seething charge that builds when something snaps after too many years under pressure. This wasn't just favoritism anymore. It was fraud. And that changed everything. I called a lawyer the next day. Her name was Dana. Calm. Surgical. No nonsense. The kind of woman who could dismantle a family legacy with one well-worded letter. She reviewed the documents I brought her and didn't even blink. They're banking on the fact that you wouldn't notice, or if you did, you wouldn't push back. They're wrong, I said. Good, she replied, sliding me a stack of forms. Let's make them remember. We filed for a formal title dispute and launched a forensic handwriting review. I signed affidavits. I authorized contact with the attorney who'd handled the will. I gave her permission to subpoena digital correspondence if needed. Dana worked fast, quiet, lethal. And then, I waited. That was the hardest part. Not screaming. Not posting about it. Not texting my sister something unhinged at 2 a.m. But I stayed silent. Because I wanted them to feel safe for just a little bit longer. I wanted Ashley to keep uploading paint swatches to her Instagram story. I wanted my parents to keep forwarding emails about investment opportunities tied to a house they no longer legally owned. I wanted them to have no idea that the ground beneath them had already started shifting. 3 weeks later, the first letter went out. A cease and desist to my parents. One to Ashley. Another to the real estate agent they were working with. The calls started the next day. I didn't answer. Instead, I sat in my living room with a glass of wine and watched as voicemail after voicemail stacked up on my phone. First my mom, then my dad, then Ashley. Her message was a masterpiece of faux confusion. Emily, hey, we didn't know you'd care about the house. You always said you didn't feel connected to it. Why are you doing this? I didn't respond. Not yet. Because the forensic analyst called that afternoon. It's not your handwriting, he said plainly. And it doesn't even match previous samples. It looks like someone copied your name off an old signature and tried to trace it. He paused. Whoever did this wasn't being careful. They assumed no one would ever look. They were half right, I said. Until now. I forwarded the results to Dana. The next letter we sent was a formal demand to restore my name on the title. Pending that, we reserved the right to pursue criminal charges. Dana drafted every word with surgical precision. The day it hit their inbox, everything went silent. No calls, no texts, no family updates about Ashley's new backsplash. Just dead air. And I liked it that way. It happened on a Sunday. The kind of day you'd expect to be quiet, slow, safe. I was halfway through cleaning out my fridge when the buzzer rang. I didn't recognize the number. I ignored it. It buzzed again. Then my phone lit up with a text. We're downstairs. We just want to talk. My mom. I froze. I hadn't seen them in person since the funeral. Even then, it had been brief, awkward, sanitized. A handshake of grief. Nothing honest. I thought about not answering. But then again, I wasn't hiding. Not anymore. So I went downstairs. They were waiting by the curb. My mom in her sunglasses, the kind she wears when she wants to look composed. My dad standing beside her like a statue that forgot how to be human. And Ashley, leaning against the car, arms crossed, like she was bored. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. We didn't know, my mom started, her voice breathy. About the paperwork. We had no idea someone forged. You signed it, I said flatly. All of you did. She looked startled. It was just. We thought maybe it'd be easier. For everyone. Easier? I repeated. Easier to pretend I didn't exist? Ashley jumped in. You were never around, Emily. You moved away, you never came home. You made it clear you didn't want to be part of things. No, I said. Calm. Even. I stopped coming home because home stopped including me. They didn't respond to that. Not right away. My dad finally cleared his throat. Look, this doesn't have to become some legal war. We're still family. I stared at him. When did I stop being treated like family? He didn't answer. My mom reached out like she might touch my arm, but I stepped back. Not dramatically. Just enough to say no. You didn't just forget me, I continued. You rewrote the script and edited me out. We thought you'd be okay, she said softly. You always are. That was the sentence. The one that cracked something open. Because that's what it always came down to, right? I was strong, so they didn't need to care. I was stable, so they invested in the chaos instead. I was quiet, so they mistook it for consent. I'm not here for an apology, I said. I don't need one. And I don't believe it would be real anyway. Ashley scoffed. So why are you doing all this? For the house? For the money? I looked her dead in the eye. I'm doing it because I exist. And I'm not letting you erase me. Not again. Not ever. My dad exhaled sharply, like that physically hurt him. Maybe it did. Good. My mom's lips trembled. We didn't think you'd fight back like this. I know. I let the silence settle after that. Then I turned and walked back up the steps to my building. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I knew they were watching. And for the first time in a long, long time, I was fine with that. After the confrontation, the silence got louder. I didn't hear from them for nearly a week. No texts, no emails, no surprise visits. Just pure, echoing nothing. And I'll admit, part of me waited for it. For someone to say, you're right. We messed up. But it never came. Because people like them don't apologize. They recalculate. The next thing I heard wasn't from my parents. It was from Dana, my lawyer. They've retained counsel, she told me over the phone. Which means they're not trying to sweep this under the rug anymore. I closed my eyes, let that sink in. What does that mean for us? It means they're taking you seriously, she said. Finally. We filed a formal challenge to reinstate my legal interest in the property. The forensic handwriting expert submitted their affidavit. Dana drafted a petition for intent to pursue damages related to fraud and loss of equitable interest. It got their attention. The house went off the market within 48 hours. And suddenly, they weren't pretending I didn't exist anymore. They were treating me like a threat. Which, honestly, felt like progress. 2 days later, I got an email from a local reporter. Someone had tipped them off about the title dispute. They were doing a feature on inheritance fraud and sibling manipulation in estate cases. Would I be willing to talk? I didn't answer right away. I sat with it for hours. Part of me still felt the old reflex. Keep it quiet. Don't stir the pot. Don't make a scene. But then I remembered. They already made the scene. They just didn't expect me to step onto the stage. So I agreed. On the condition of anonymity. The article went live the following week. It was clean, professional, a little dry. But it got shared. A lot. Comments poured in. Stories from people who'd been pushed out of inheritances, who were called selfish for speaking up, who had watched younger siblings take everything and be congratulated for it. I wasn't alone. Not even close. The next surprise came in the form of a knock at my door. I wasn't expecting anyone. I almost didn't answer. But something told me to look. It was my aunt. My dad's sister. We hadn't spoken in years. Not out of malice. Just distance. Family gatherings fell apart after my grandmother died, and no one ever rebuilt the bridges. But she was standing there with a folder in one hand and something that looked an awful lot like regret in her eyes. Can I come in? She asked. I nodded. She sat at my kitchen table like it physically hurt her. She placed the folder between us. I saw the article, she said. And I need you to know. I believe you. I blinked. Okay. And more than that, she continued. I've seen things. For years. The way your parents treat you. The way Ashley's been propped up like the second coming of royalty while you were treated like staff. That got a laugh out of me. Bitter. Short. She opened the folder. Inside were old emails. Handwritten notes. Copies of conversations she'd had with my parents when the estate was being settled. There was pressure to make things easy, she said. Your dad didn't think you'd care. Your mom said you were always so independent, but I knew something was off when I saw your name disappear from the paperwork. I didn't say anything, I just kept reading. Each page was a thread, and together they wove a very clear picture. They hadn't just excluded me, they'd planned to. She reached into her purse, pulled out a check. This isn't to fix anything, she said. But if you decide to take them to court, I want to help cover your legal fees. I stared at the check. Not for the money. For the fact that it came with something I hadn't felt from anyone in my family in years. Allegiance. I'm not looking to burn everything down, I said softly. I know, she replied. But you deserve to hold the match. Just in case. The truth is, I never cared that much about the house. Yeah, I said it. Not because it didn't matter. It did. It held every version of me that my parents ignored. The swing on the porch where I used to read Goosebumps books during summers. The scratch in the doorframe marking my height at age 9, back when someone still paid attention to things like that. The kitchen where Grandma taught me how to make peach cobbler and whispered, "You're the sharp one, Emily. They just don't see it yet." It mattered. But it wasn't about square footage or mortgage rights or hardwood floors. It was about history. About the fact that someone had finally drawn a line in my favor, and they had erased it without blinking. That's what I couldn't forgive. So when the reporter followed up asking if I wanted to go on record, fully, publicly, I took a breath and said yes. Not because I wanted to shame my family, but because for the first time in my life, I had something they couldn't edit, minimize, or delete. My voice. The piece ran 2 weeks later. Not in a tabloid. Not on some gossipy subreddit. In a real publication, under the headline, "When the Quiet One Fights Back, a story of inheritance, erasure, and visibility." My name was right there. Emily Parker. I'd never seen it look so powerful. People shared it. People I hadn't spoken to in years texted me. Professors, old classmates, even a former manager. Some of the messages were short, just, "I see you." Others poured out paragraphs, stories of their own silencing, their own golden child siblings, their own battle scars from families who mistook silence for weakness. Even Dana was surprised. "Most inheritance disputes stay in the dark," she said. "But you brought this one into the light, and you didn't flinch." I did flinch though, alone. At night. When the adrenaline faded and all that was left was the ache. Because no matter how justified I was, this wasn't victory. Not yet. That came one morning when I opened my inbox and saw a message from the county clerk's office. Subject. Title correction approved. Body. Your name has been reinstated on the deed to 314 Willow Lane per court order and consent decree. Full legal interest restored. Attached, updated title record. I just stared at the screen. No champagne pop. No celebratory playlist. Just stillness. Then I did something weird. I laughed. Not loud. Not joyful. More like a release. Because it wasn't just my name that had been restored. It was the reality of what I'd always known but had never been allowed to say. I was never the problem. I printed the title. Framed it. Hung it on the wall above my desk. Not because I cared about the property, but because it was a physical, undeniable reminder that I existed. I mattered. I left a paper trail. And no one erased me this time. That weekend I went back to the house. Alone. It was still empty. Cold. Echoing in ways I didn't expect. I walked through each room slowly. Let the dust cling to my shoes. Let the silence settle around me like a blanket I'd outgrown. I stood in the kitchen where Grandma used to hum Patsy Cline. Ran my fingers along the windowsill where my science fair project once exploded. Paused at the hall closet where I used to hide after dinner when things got loud and sharp and too much. Then I sat on the front steps and watched the light spill across the porch. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for someone to notice me. I wasn't hoping to be called inside. I wasn't holding my breath for a crumb of recognition. I just sat. Because I belonged. Because this space, and this story, had always been mine too. And now finally, they knew it. The messages started the same day the article dropped. Not from strangers. From family. Voicemails. Texts. DMs I didn't even know they knew how to send. First came the confusion. Dad. Why would you go public like this? We could have handled this privately. Mom. Emily, you're making us sound like monsters. That wasn't our intention. You know that. Ashley. Congrats on the clout, I guess. Hope it was worth blowing up the family. Then came the guilt. Or their version of it. Dad again. We were wrong. I see that now. I just didn't realize how much we hurt you. I'm sorry, kiddo. Mom. I wish you had told me sooner how much this meant to you. Maybe we could have fixed it. But that was the thing. I had told them. 1,000 different ways. Every achievement I shared that got brushed aside. Every quiet question I asked, hoping for a real answer. Every time I stepped out of the spotlight, thinking maybe, just maybe, that would finally earn their love without demanding it. They just hadn't been listening. So this time, I didn't rush to reply. I didn't reply at all. Not for days. I spent that weekend cleaning out old folders, unsubscribing from junk emails, and reorganizing my bookshelf. There was something almost spiritual about deleting the group chat thread with my parents, like clearing mental storage space. They still existed. They just didn't take up the same room in my head anymore. On Monday I got a certified letter. It was from their lawyer. No lawsuit. No threats. Just a settlement offer. They were willing to discuss a buyout if I wanted to walk away from the property. Apparently Ashley still wanted the house. I sat with that for a long time. Not because I wanted the money. I didn't. Not because I was tempted. I wasn't. But because the offer felt like what it always was with them, a shortcut, a way to throw something at the problem instead of facing what caused it. I didn't respond. Instead, I forwarded it to Dana. Her reply was one line. Let's make this fun. We rejected the offer, not with anger, not with venom, just clarity. My legal interest wasn't for sale, not to them, not anymore. A few days later, I got a knock on the door. Ashley. No makeup, no filters, just standing there like a ghost who'd gotten lost on the way to a better version of her life. I'm not here to fight, she said. I just want to talk. I let her in. Not out of forgiveness, out of curiosity. She stood in my kitchen, eyes darting, like she was waiting to be yelled at. I didn't know they'd actually take your name off, she said quickly. I thought it was just being shifted around. For paperwork. I didn't say anything. She kept going. I'm not the villain, okay? I didn't ask to be the favorite. They just gave me everything. And I didn't know how to say no. I looked at her. Really looked at her. And for the first time, I realized she wasn't proud. She was terrified. Because if I was no longer invisible, then she was no longer untouchable. She stepped toward me. So what happens now? I shrugged. I keep doing what I've always done, just louder this time. She looked down. Do you hate me? I paused. No, I said truthfully. But I don't trust you either. She nodded slowly, like she understood. Then she handed me an envelope. From Mom and Dad. It's... well, you'll see. She left. Quietly. Like she finally understood what that word actually felt like. Inside the envelope was a card. Hallmark, obviously. Gold lettering. Faux sincerity. The message inside was handwritten. Not forged this time. We don't know how to fix what we broke, but we want to try. Please don't shut us out. Mom and Dad. I placed the card on my desk, didn't throw it out, didn't frame it, just let it sit there. Because I wasn't looking for redemption. And I definitely wasn't asking for repair. I had already done the hardest part, choosing myself, even when they didn't. And some bridges aren't meant to be burned, they're meant to be walked away from, calm, proud, on your own 2 feet. I kept the card, not because I needed it, but because it reminded me how far I'd come. At one point in my life, a gesture like that would have cracked me open. I would have clung to it, read into it, replayed it in my head until it morphed into something it never was. I would have mistaken it for love. Now? It was paper. Paper with some ink and a few decades too late. Because here's the truth. Closure isn't something they give you. It's something you build. And I was already building mine. A few weeks after the title was restored, I got invited to speak at a community workshop. It was on estate literacy, not a flashy topic, but one that hit home for a lot of people who'd been blindsided the same way I had. I almost said no. But then I thought about how many people out there were like me, The quiet ones, the dependable ones, the ones who got cut out not just from property, but from memory. So I said yes. The room wasn't packed. Maybe 20 people, mostly older, some with notebooks, some just there to listen. But when I told my story, the real story, not the headline version, they leaned in. And for the first time, I felt what it meant to not just exist in someone's life, but to be witnessed. After the talk, a woman came up to me in tears. "My brother took everything," she said. "They said I didn't need it. But I needed someone to tell me I wasn't crazy." "You're not," I said. And I meant it. That night, I went home and opened a new document on my laptop. Title: The Second Daughter Fund Mission, to help women, especially the quiet ones, navigate estate injustice, legal literacy, and family erasure. I didn't need to build a nonprofit. I had no reason to go that big. But I wanted to. Because while my family spent years handing out spotlight and silence like prizes and punishments, I had finally found a different kind of power. The ability to give someone else what I'd never received. The fund launched small. A donation here, a consultation there. Then someone shared my article again. A podcast invited me to speak. A lawyer in Minnesota reached out to help pro bono. It grew. Not viral like a meme. But steadily. Quietly. Like me. One morning, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. From my grandmother's oldest friend. Someone I hadn't seen since I was 12. She'd read the article. Seen the follow-ups. Her message was short, but it stayed with me. "Ruth always said you'd be the one to carry the torch. Looks like she was right." I cried for the first time in months. Not because I was sad, but because I finally believed it. I didn't need the apology. I didn't need a do-over. I didn't even need them to understand. I had built something better. It's been a year now. The house? I still own my share. I haven't decided what to do with it. Maybe I'll renovate it into a retreat for women going through inheritance disputes. Maybe I'll sell it and put every dollar into the fund. I haven't rushed the decision. Ashley sends holiday texts now. Civil. Short. I reply politely. My mom emails updates sometimes. She asks how the fund is doing. She says she's proud of me. I don't correct her. Let her think she's always been in my corner. That's her story to live with. Me? I don't need the rewrite. Because I'm not the footnote anymore. I'm not the second-place daughter. I'm not the backup plan or the forgotten name on a legal form. I'm the one who spoke. I'm the one who stayed. I'm the one who rebuilt the legacy in my name. And the best part? They can't silence what they can't reach.